this point, we're just done to 10.
Okay.
Put your hands on your back.
Please let her go. Please let her go.
Then give me your name.
I did something wrong. She didn't.
What did you
She
do
doesn't
wrong?
know what I did.
Okay, that's fine.
Let me talk to you over here. Okay, I'll leave it. I'll put it back.
What is it that you did?
I did something really wrong.
Morgan Geyser set to be back in a courtroom this morning after skipping out of that halfway house. We'll have the very latest. Plus, from the courtroom to the big screen. The polarizing case against Karen Reed, now a movie. We'll talk about that. And our 12 days of holiday crimes continues with the focus on Scott Peterson. Beth Karras is going to join us live, and Luigi Mangione's lawyers claim that Attorney General Pam Bondi has a conflict of interest. We'll talk about that as well. Busy morning. It's all next right here on Opening Statements. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rollins in for Julie Grant. It is Tuesday, December 23rd. We're inching closer to closing out the year of 2025. We're glad to have you along with us this morning. We got a little Karen Reed, Luigi Mangione, Scott Peterson, quite the lineup this morning. Normally we start this show every day with that daily docket because there's stuff going around there's nothing going on today. Why? Because it's a couple days before Christmas, except in the state of Wisconsin, where there's a huge hearing here for this woman, Morgan Geyser, set to appear later this morning. This is the first appearance that she's had since her escape from that halfway house in Madison, Wisconsin. The state's looking to revoke her conditional release from a mental health facility. Before we get into what's going to happen at today's hearing, here is Court TV's Michael Ayala with more on Morgan Geyser.
I just want to let Ella and her family know I'm sorry. I just never meant this to happen.
That is Morgan Geyser at her sentencing hearing after pleading guilty to a brutal stabbing that left her friend clinging to life. Geyser and another girl, Anissa Wire, stabbed fellow sixth grader Peyton Bella Lutner after a sleepover at Geyser's home. The girls claim they carried out the attack over their belief in a fictional internet horror character named Slender Man.
I believed that if I didn't go through with it, Slender Man would come and attack and kill myself, my friends, and my family.
Wire pleaded guilty to being a party to second-degree homicide, while Geyser pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree intentional homicide. Both girls were deemed not responsible for their actions because of mental illness and ordered to serve their sentences at mental health facilities. At separate plea hearings, the girls described what happened as they led their friend into the Waukesha, Wisconsin woods on that spring day in 2014.
Morgan asked me whether or not she should do it, and I just wanted it to be over with, so I said, just go berserk, do what you have to do.
I came up from behind her, and I jumped on her. I tackled her, and I stabbed her.
Do you know how many times you did it?
19.
Their victim, 12-year-old Peyton Lutner, lay bleeding, with her friends standing over her.
Anissa told her to lie down so she wouldn't lose blood so quickly, and told her to be quiet, and we left.
Oh, just listening to what they did was horrible. Then, of course, Geyser ends up leaving that group home in Madison, Wisconsin last month. She's arrested along with her friend the next day near Chicago, and it was all caught on police body cam.
At this point, we're just done to 10.
Okay.
Put your hands on your back.
Please let her go. Please let her go.
Then give me your name.
I did something wrong. She didn't.
What did you
She
do
doesn't know what I did.
Okay, that's fine.
Let me talk to you over here. Okay, I'll leave it. I'll put it back.
What is it that you did wrong?
I did something really wrong.
And what is your name? What's happening? We don't want problems with you, okay? We just need to ID you. That's it. What did you have wrong? What?
She doesn't know my real name.
Okay. Well, give him your real name. Don't tell him.
What's your last name?
Why? So he says you just can't give me the information.
Okay, so it's Morgan.
Morgan.
And then your last name?
Geyser.
G-U... What is it?
Geyser. I promise she did not know.
G-E-Y-S...
ER.
And then what's your date of birth?
May 16th, 2002.
Okay. So Morgan is your first name, right?
Yes.
Geyser.
No.
Let me say goodbye, please.
Okay, we will.
I will never see her again.
Yeah, you will.
No, I won't.
3014. Can you take her name and date of
I did
birth?
something bad. Let me say goodbye.
Yeah, well, she likely won't see her again. According to multiple reports, Geyser's attorneys submitted a filing saying they will not fight the state's effort to revoke her release privileges. So what does this mean? What's going to happen today? Let's talk about it with former prosecutor Rick Garundi and civil attorney Ben Chu. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. Richard, this is the work that went into getting her into that halfway house was extraordinary. Her attorneys, it was a collaborative effort, and poof, it just is blown out by her leaving. What is next for her? It's likely going back to the state hospital.
Yeah, unfortunately, she's in a chasm that is not unique to any state within the country, and that is this area between criminality and mental health issues. And unfortunately, nowhere has really addressed this effectively, and the prisons are filled with people who are mentally ill. With respect to her, I think she comes across as very capable of understanding, at least at this point in time, what she's doing, being deceptive, and still being a danger. So she's right in that spot where she's committed a horrific act. I'm not ultimately familiar with her medical records to date, but that she is still a threat. So you need to find that spot where she is safe from the public, but can get some of that treatment. So it starts going back to the hospital. Unfortunately, the hospital's mission is to get her out again.
And Ben, some people would think, well, why don't you just throw her in jail or a prison cell rather than having her go back to the hospital? Talk us through jurisdictionally why she's found herself in what Rich said was this unique position, sort of.
Good to be with you, Ted. I agree with Richard. I think clearly this woman both has serious mental illness, but also is quite capable. She was able to remove her ankle bracelet and escape from the group home and enlist a Confederate, really, an older man who helped her do so. So she's certainly capable of committing acts, and she committed a heinous act in stabbing her friend, which is a criminal act. But we simply don't incarcerate people who have this degree of mental unfitness. So she needs to go back to the institution, and she can't be in a group home anymore.
And then, Richard, what happens? This is you alluded to it, the goal of the institution is to rehabilitate and get the people out of the institution and into a halfway house and then eventually into society. But she's set herself way back, one would think.
One would think. This is a decision, however, now that kind of separates itself somewhat from a legal decision and becomes a medical decision. So it's going to be a decision who are made by doctors. And that, again, is part of the chasm, because I personally think that she is still a strong danger, and that there should be mental health facilities where there can be a determination that this person cannot be released for an extended period of time, as opposed to we can rehabilitate everybody. I don't know what determination was made here as to whether it was youthfulness or that she had been rehabilitated at some level. I think in Massachusetts now, there's maybe a 5-year area between when a person's brain is fully developed and when you're senile. I don't know what it is out in this jurisdiction, but it's going to be a medical decision more than a legal decision.
Senile, getting senile. Don't bring that up, Richard. We're getting closer to that. Ben, this is a case where she was so young. Her age was a huge factor, 12 years old. Had she been 17 when this happened, 16, she'd have been tried as an adult, and we wouldn't be talking about her because she'd be up at the Waupun State Prison in Wisconsin, likely.
Ted, that's a really great point. But I think now that she has committed this other act, having bamboozled the doctors and bamboozled a judge into allowing her to live in a group home, I think having been proven wrong, they need to be safe and do the same thing, safe thing, not only for her, but also for us in the public. So she needs to go back to that mental institution.
At today's hearing, Richard, sounds like everybody's signed off on this. This is a formality, likely that because even the defense isn't fighting it. They're saying, we get it. What do you expect to take place today?
I expect exactly what you said. It's going to be a rubber stamp that she goes back. They're going to ask for time to investigate it, to get her medical workup, to get new testing done, that no permanent decisions or lengthy decisions be made today, and save it to fight for another day. Today is not a day for the defense to engage. All they can do is lose credibility if they attempt to.
Yeah. Again, 9:30 Eastern Time. Morgan Geyser will be in court, pretty much the only defendant in a courtroom today as we inch closer and closer to the end of the year. It is time for a commercial break. What's coming up? Well, this.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all? Jurors, hearken your verdict as the court records it. You, upon your oath, say the defendant on 001 is not guilty, on 002 is guilty of operating under the influence of liquor, and 003 not guilty. Thank you.
It's Richard Grundy's favorite subject, Karen Reed. We're going to talk about this new Lifetime movie and those civil cases they're churning on as well. That's in Trending in True Crime. Plus, our 12 Days of Crime continues with a focus on Scott Peterson and his quest to overturn his murder conviction. Court TV legend Beth Karras is going to join us live. We'll break it all down. Stay with us.
I'm going to ask you a lot of intensely personal questions.
From the crime scene to the courtroom, this is Victim to Verdict.
Everyone has this heightened sense of anticipation.
What a day here at Court TV.
Fireworks both inside and outside the courthouse.
Let the cameras roll.
Defendant not guilty or guilty? So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all?
So excited. Couldn't have asked for a better outcome.
We waited for this, and justice is finally served.
I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters. No one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have, and my team. Thank you.
Karen Reed, oh boy. Karen Reed, Richard Grundy's favorite subject. I think mine too, at least this year. What a year it was. Well, now it's taking a turn. A movie is being made about the case. We've seen this before with high-profile cases. The trial that divided the community, ignited social media, and put the criminal justice system under a national spotlight is now going to be on your TV screen. It's Lifetime. They love to do this. It's called The Accused. It's a series. Take a look.
We need someone now. There's a guy. He's unresponsive in the snow.
Just behind me is the location of the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe.
Karen Reed, you have the right to remain silent.
I loved this man.
Karen, did you kill John O'Keefe? Karen Reed had nothing to do with it.
It just feels like this whole town is turning on me.
Karen Reed, of course, was acquitted of the murder of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, during her retrial earlier this year. Although a wrongful death suit remains between the families, they're suing each other. Here to discuss is the former head of the homicide unit in Norfolk County, Massachusetts, Richard Grundy, and Ben Chew still with us. Richard, what's your take on this? It's weird seeing that an actress playing Karen Reed obviously studied those body camera videos. Overall thoughts?
Oh my. I assume that this is going to be a Jackson Reed production. I think that, just by the title itself, The Accused, that they're going to tell the story 100% from her side, and that she was wrongfully accused. It went through a vicious 3-year cycle of court dates and trials to survive this. And that is one story there. My mind immediately goes to the suffering that John O'Keefe's family and loved ones will be going through as a result of this. And I question how both Alan Jackson and Karen Reed will address that, if at all, or just bask in their glory. And I suspect the latter. One thing that I don't get a full flavor of is that I was here in the midst of all this in Massachusetts. And I just didn't have any angle to get a sense of, did this really pervade the rest of the country as it did here in Massachusetts? And apparently it did, if they're going forward with this production. So that's still mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, Ben, it did. This was one of those cases that just kept rising up, and the people around the country caught into it, and it was amazing how you could look at the exact same set of facts and be convinced that Karen Reed was guilty or innocent. I mean, it's one of those cases that really polarized this country. Your overall thoughts on it, why it got to there? How did a case about a woman accused of killing her boyfriend because she was drunk get into the point where now there's a movie about it?
Well, I think it had a lot of elements. You had an attractive young couple. You had a police officer. There were a lot of elements that made this something that would capture the imagination. And in my experience, however, I think the trial is going to be better than the movie coming out of it. It certainly was our experience in Depp v. Heard. I think the movie makers are trying to capitalize on a moment, but I think that your viewers would be wiser to watch your show and to watch the forthcoming civil trial.
Yes, a great transition, Ben, because the civil trial, Richard, to your point earlier, where this isn't over, and it seems to have gotten nastier. The civil cases are pending here, and the judge, during the first meeting of everybody, implored them to figure it out. Otherwise, this is going to be years of litigation, and likely the feeling of dissatisfaction is going to permeate the process at the end of the day. That was basically the message from the judge. Try to figure this out. Do you see that happening, or do you see these two groups going in all in to the end?
I don't see it happening, because I think you're in civil court. Your ultimate decision is a financial one. It's money going one way or the other, or going both ways. And I think that's the lesser concern of all the parties here. I just wanted to touch on something that Ben said, which I couldn't agree more, is when these real life trials get to the screenwriters, they just never catch the essence of the brilliance of the attorneys who try the case. I've been disappointed many times. So, I think in the civil case,
wait, are you complimenting Alan Jackson, saying that he was brilliant?
No, I'm not at all. Well, you say, like, how did it become this way? I agree exactly with what Ben said, but add into that, police overcharged him. There was a cognitive sense that she was overcharged because he was a police officer. And then this story that gripped the nation with respect to this vast plot and conspiracy was hatched by a turtle, Turtle Boy, and grabbed onto by Alan Jackson. So that's how we got here. The script was already written for him. The civil case, I think they're going to bang heads, and I think it's probably what both parties want at this point.
Ben, you're familiar with the civil arena intimately. How do you see this progressing, and is the judge right that everybody will end up saving a lot of grief and possibly cash if they were to come to some settlement?
The judge is right. That would be the smart thing to do, but Rick is also correct. This is, as you know, Ted, and as Rick knows, 95% approximately of civil cases settle prior to trial. There are a lot of reasons that is, including the expense and uncertainty of trials. But in this case, the result is existential to both sides, and it really isn't about the money here. At least to some degree, it's about their own personal vindication. So I think we're going to have another trial here, and it may take a while, and it's going to be extremely ugly and extremely bitter. And I'm not sure it's going to capture the imagination of the public the way the criminal trial did, because in the criminal trial, Karen Reed's liberty was at stake. Here, it's just about the money. And I would analogize it to the O.J. Simpson case and to the Michael Jackson case, because those cases, ended up in the civil court as well and weren't quite as dramatic as the criminal aspect.
Now, with O.J., there were no cameras allowed during the civil portion, and it might have been. And, Ben, you were a celebrity during the Johnny Depp case, and that was televised. It was civil all the way. I don't know. I get your point, but there might be such familiarity now between Karen Reed and the players, and the fact that Jackson is diving into this as well. We'll wait and see. But point well taken. Ben, enjoy the rest of 2025. It's such an honor always to have you on. Appreciate it. And Rich is going to stick around. Before we leave, a little note, lead detective in the Karen Reed case, Michael Proctor, he can no longer work in Massachusetts law enforcement. Proctor was fired earlier this year over misconduct during Reed's trial, including sending those insulting text messages about Reed and sharing the sensitive information about the case. The Massachusetts Peace Officer Standard and Training Commission, known as POST, has now suspended Proctor's law enforcement certification, making him unable to serve anywhere in the state again. Coming up on Opening Statements, our 12 Days of Crime continues with a focus on Scott Peterson and his quest to overturn his murder conviction. Beth Karras, who was inside that courtroom during it all, Court TV legend, is going to join us live. We'll break it all down for you. Plus, Luigi Mangione's attorneys claim the Attorney General's decision on the death penalty is tainted due to a conflict of interest. We'll discuss that with Richard in Tipping the Scales next. Welcome back to Opening Statements. Glad to be along with you. I'm Ted Rollins in for Julie Grant today. Christmas Eve 2002, 27-year-old Lacey Peterson went missing. She was 8 months pregnant with her first child, a little boy named Connor. Her disappearance sparked a massive search in Northern California and across the country. Then 4 months later, the remains of Lacey and Connor began washing ashore in the San Francisco Bay. Her husband, Scott, was arrested days later as he was near the Mexican border in San Diego. His hair was dyed. People thought he was maybe going to run. He was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder in 2004. It was quite the spectacle outside of the courthouse. Take a listen.
State of California versus Scott Peterson. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Scott Lee Peterson, guilty of the crime of murder of Lacey Denise Peterson.
Peterson was sentenced to death later. That was overturned because of an issue with the trial judge, Judge DeLucchi, and the way they went through the voir dire process. But he's serving a life sentence. He's still fighting for a new trial. Joining us now, a special guest on this Tuesday, former Court TV correspondent and host of ID's Curious Case. It's Beth Karras. Beth, great to see you. this, it's one of those cases you just keep talking about because it's inherently, it just doesn't go away. Part of the reason it doesn't go away is because he doesn't go away. He and his family really are hell-bent on getting him out and believe that he was wrongly convicted. Are you surprised that is still going on, that's still fighting for his release, that they truly believe, it seems, that he didn't do it?
You know, Scott was sentenced to death in March of 2005. So it's been 20 years since he was sentenced. His sentence was overturned, as you said, 15 years after that. But he has a family that is so compassionate about him and believes in his innocence. Not just that there wasn't enough proof beyond a reasonable doubt, because we do see guilty people go free because there's not enough proof. They believe he's the wrong person who was tried. But there's another school of people who lived through that trial and saw it. I'm one of them who believes that the jury got it right. I'm not offended by the overturning of the death verdict and giving him life without parole, because that's fine. I mean, he was going to do life anyway, since they don't really execute in California anymore. There's been a moratorium for almost 20 years in California. But his family is just so dedicated to pursuing their opinion, justice, by getting him freed, that I guess I'm not that surprised. I mean, his cousin, Janie, was it cousin or sister-in-law?
Sister-in-law,
Janie went to law school. Yeah, sister-in-law went to law school to help fight for him. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
I think they should do whatever they can. I just don't know if they're going to prevail. I don't think they will.
Yeah, the odds are always long. Well, Janie will always, whenever I talk to her and go through, well, about this or this, and her response is, and I'll ask you this, how did he do it? How did Scott kill Laci? What do you think happened? Because Rick DeStasso, remember, he told the jury, we don't know how, we don't know when, and where exactly, but we know he did it. What do you think? How did he do it?
So I just want to say that very argument, those words you're uttering, were uttered by Cheney Mason in Casey Anthony's trial, and that was a winning argument for them. We don't know how, we don't know when, we don't know who, but it wasn't a winning argument in Scott Peterson's case. The prosecution doesn't have to prove how it happened. They know it was a soft kill, meaning it wasn't a stabbing or a shooting. There was no blood left behind. It was in her own home. Her decomposed body was found, so they can't tell if she was strangled because the telltale signs of strangulation were no longer present in the remains that were found. I suspect it was a suffocation or strangulation as she was undressing. It appears that, because one item she had been wearing when she was getting her hair done on December 23rd, late afternoon, with her sister at a half-sister salon, one of those items was in the hamper. And so, but she was wearing, maternity pants. I can't recall if they were light-colored pants. I can't recall if her sister said she was wearing dark or light pants, but it appears that a theory is that she was getting changed and he may have come up behind her, strangled her or suffocated her or something, but it happened in the house probably that night.
The case itself, as it played out, the defense was doing Mark Garagos took over the courtroom. There was, it seemed reasonable doubt. You remember the juror, Justin, I forget his last name, was booted, and he was like, oh, I don't think he did it. I don't think. Then Amber Fry walked into that courtroom, and the jury heard those tapes. To what extent was this case about his conduct before and after the murders? Or the murder, murders.
It was all about that. It was all about that. Justin Falconer, that was his name.
Yes.
And he's given an opinion. Once he got booted, he's talking to us and other networks based on only a fraction of the evidence, right? Because the trial was 6 months total from beginning of opening statements to the death verdict was 6 months. He didn't know that much about the case, yet he said he's not guilty. Well, it was all about his behavior. Really, his behavior leading up to it and right after is critical. And as they were searching the bay for the boats were out there, and Scott, the police had a tracking device on Scott's vehicle, and he was using a rented vehicle, and he would race out to the bay, which was like 90 miles or so from where he lived, and he would just watch what the police boats were doing, not ask anybody. He wasn't near the police. He wasn't asking them. They knew where he was. He just watch and then leave. We think, right, police thought, or prosecutors thought, because he wanted to see where they were looking in the water, was it close to where he had been with his boat and where he dumped the bodies? So why isn't he going up to the police saying, hey, what's going on? Any luck? What do you think, right? And he was concerned when they had found something that turned out to be an anchor. Remember, there was a recording because they were recording his phone, and his mother had said to him, you wouldn't be so stupid as to dump her body in the bay. It was just an anchor, and he was relieved. Those are, I think, 2 different calls. But there were so many different things. Lacey's friends said when they got called down to the police station on Christmas Day, Scott went with them, but then he didn't want to go in to talk about, like, who would do this and what was going on in her life, like, who would want to disappear, this pregnant woman. And he said he had dog poop on his shoe and he didn't want to go in. And they're like, what? Your wife is missing. Come in the police station with us. And he went in, stood in the back, and didn't say much. His behavior when they were searching for her, he was supposed to be posting flyers. They found him just sitting in his truck, not posting flyers. He's talking to Amber Fry. I mean, Amber Fry was the turning point, right? I mean, he's pretending to be in Europe when he's at the vigil for his wife. He didn't want to be up on the stage with his family, crying and pleading for whoever has her to bring her back. And he's there, just sort of with the crowd, talking to Amber Fry. Come on.
Now, it was, well, let's listen to some of that. Here's a recorded conversation between Scott and Amber. Amber, at this point, is working with Modesto PD because she knows who he is. He doesn't know that she knows, and he's talking.
I just need to tell you how much I care about you. And you got so much to be, for the rest of our lives. You're your best friend, your biggest comfort, the second most joy in your life. I want to see those things so bad for you.
Is it fair to say, Beth, you take that out of the equation, then he possibly walks? You take Amber out. If you take Amber Fry out of it, think about the case in the trial. No Amber Fry, no recordings. It's a huge part of it.
It is a huge part of it, and it provides a motive, although there are those who say he really wasn't planning a future with Amber, but I don't know. I don't know. But I still remember Craig Grogan, he was a lead detective. He had that list of like 40 things that were all suspicious. Well, Amber's just 1 or 2 of the things on the list, right? Amber and whatever she was able to give to the investigation. There's lots of other behavior. At the time, the dog evidence was also considered pretty compelling. There has been, some scaling back of that, I believe. But there still was other evidence against
the fact that her body was in the bay.
Yeah,
I mean, the most compelling evidence, that's when they pulled the trigger on the arrest, when she turns up in the place where he put himself. Correct. Because he had to. He thought he was seen. The fishermen were watching him load the boat. And he had the ticket, so...
Correct.
Yeah.
And he had the parking he had the receipt from parking, and then, putting his boat in the water, and they said he was a little awkward doing it. He had just bought it. Why? There were so many bodies of water. Remember at the trial, there was testimony about how many different lakes there were between Modesto and the bay. He could have gone and tested the boat and gone fishing any number of places, and then he goes fishing without saltwater fishing gear and tackle. He didn't have the right gear for fishing for sturgeon, and I don't think it was the season for sturgeon either. So, I mean, when the police asked him, what were you fishing for? That night when Lacey was reported missing, he said sturgeon. I think he hesitated, and then he said sturgeon. And they're like, yeah, this is weird, So
and it was a 14-foot boat.
Besides Amber Fry.
The boat was tiny. It was a 14-footer. The bay is nasty, and if this is your first time out with a boat of that size, that's the last place you want to put it. You might as well drop it in the the ocean. Yeah, it's very risky.
Right, risky. I mean, I mean, I know it was misty. It wasn't great weather that day. It was a little bit wet out, but I don't remember if it was really choppy waters. But yeah, it was risky for him. And the irony is, like, he gets convicted a few years later, and when he's sentenced to death, he's at San Quentin, and San Quentin overlooks the bay where he had dumped his wife.
Yeah, it sure does. And now he's over at the Mule Creek State Prison, where he will likely spend the rest of his life if he is unsuccessful in terms of his appeals. Beth, always great to see you. Hope you're well. Enjoy the rest of 2025 and the rest of the holiday season. And be sure to watch Beth Karas, ID's Curious Case of, season premiere January 12th, also streaming on HBO Max. Beth Karas, thank you. Still ahead on Opening Statements.
It touches two nerves in the American public. One, death and crime, and two, insurance, health insurance, and money, and how you can die because a claim is denied. And meanwhile, the health insurance company makes more money.
As the stakes heat up outside the courthouse, Luigi Mangione's attorneys are firing new claims against Attorney General Pam Bondi, saying that her decision to seek the death penalty is tainted. We'll talk about that and how it could potentially tip the scales. Stay with us.
Do you think you deserve to die for murdering those innocent people?
You tell me.
Can you see how damning that evidence is? How do you explain that?
My goal is to make sure that you remember me for the rest of your life.
Oh my God. It looks more like fury than fear.
I felt guilty for that.
You felt guilty because, frankly, you were guilty.
Interview with a Killer. Marathon starting Christmas night, 8/7 Central. Only on Court TV.
It touches two nerves in the American public. One, death and crime, and two, insurance.
The issue of this United Healthcare CEO being shot is so large and touches so many Americans that I think it's almost impossible to find someone who would be unbiased and could just hear the evidence.
I want to see everyone have a right to a fair trial, not just Luigi. I want to see the death penalty completely scrapped. I don't think that should be allowed in this day and age. And if we can use the attention on Luigi's case to further those movements, I think that's a net positive for everyone.
Now for tipping the scales, Luigi Mangione's defense team is once again trying to get that death penalty off of the table, this time alleging that U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has a conflict of interest. Mangione's lawyers say that AG Bondi's decision was influenced by her history as a lobbyist at a firm that represented United Healthcare, their parent company, Ballard Partners. In court filings, his lawyers wrote in part that Bondi, quote, has violated the rules of the court and Department of Justice procedures, and that Bondi took unusually personal and prejudicial actions to ensure that the Mangione case was the first death-eligible case of the new Trump administration. Mangione's lawyers have indicated that they want to investigate Bondi's ties to Ballard and the firm's relationship with United Healthcare Group, with asking various materials, including details of the compensation from the firm. They want all of that. Doesn't make a difference. Here to discuss, former prosecutor Rick Grundy. What you take, when the death penalty is ever on the table, that becomes the number one focus of a defense team. Start there and then move on. What's your take on the validity of the association between Pam Bondi's working for a lobbyist and United Healthcare to now, okay, they can't go after the death penalty?
So let's look at this realistically. The Attorney General of the United States has historically, whether it's Ed Meese, Eric Holder with Barack Obama, Merrick Garland, most recently with the Biden administration. These are high-powered attorneys coming from big firms where I had some dark days at, that are dealing with corporate structures regularly. Those are their clients. They're also dealing with them on a personal level in the sense that they're not in the law library doing the research. They're fostering these relationships, bringing the business through the office. A lot of it may be actual lobbying. So these connections that it sounds like that the defense at this point in time is mostly hypothetically putting out there and looking for information or the opportunity to investigate it further. are normal and to be expected in Attorney General's office, and you would have a hard time finding an Attorney General in any recent history that didn't have these in making these decisions. That having been said, in the legal field, and particularly governmental prosecutions, the appearance of impropriety is as bad as impropriety. So to the extent, I would let them have the discovery, and to the extent that you can say that there were some individual conversations here and there, specifically with Bondi or Bondi's first deputy and people who the victim was employed by, friends with, whatever, that may have swayed her, then maybe you have an argument to make. But as you say, they're going through a big pile of hay, looking for a needle, and maybe this is it. But, you know, here, even if Pam Bondi were to say, you know what, I'll step aside and I'll let one of my deputies make a decision, it's going to be the same decision.
Yeah, and it seems like that will be remedied on some level. You mentioned appearance as well. The appearance of Luigi Mangione is also the focus of some attention, where it's come out that here's what he gets: 2 suits, 3 shirts, 3 sweaters, 3 pairs of pants, 5 pairs of socks, and a pair of shoes without laces. And the New York Times did a piece on the fact that they are actively changing up his wardrobe and trying to see what clicks and what literally clicks, what people are clicking. His appearance from the very beginning, the bushy eyebrowed, sexy man theme has permeated this case. And I get it, but in the court, there's video of him shooting a guy on the streets of New York. Does this matter? All of this?
Well, Ted, this is something I obviously have dealt with on a personal level throughout my career. He actually has more clothes than I do. I'm impressed by that. It has a effect on, you know, the coverage of the case. It has an effect on what's going on outside of the courtroom. And it'll have an effect to the point that some arguments they make on behalf of this young, good-looking, well-educated individual will take on more merit. Not merit to the extent that they're going to win anything, but there's going to be more to argue there than your run-of-the-mill gangster or common criminal. So it will take on a life of its own. Is it going to free him? Is he going to walk out the courthouse days and have his scarf back? I don't see that happening.
Yeah. Quickly, the healthcare industry has earned itself a really despicable reputation in this country. I would suspect the defense is going to try to get that out as much as they can in looking forward at trial. Not Brian Thompson, but who he worked for and who he represented.
Yes, absolutely. It's just like having any victim that was, you know, one gangster shoots another gangster. You're going to point out to them that they put themselves before the crosshairs. You got to play that a little carefully in this situation, but they're going to pump that vein of the public of what the healthcare companies have done to these people.
Yeah, and you know, you get 12 citizens of the United States on a jury. The odds that a couple have had horrible experiences are pretty high, so we'll wait and see. Richard, as always, thank you. Appreciate your time on this Tuesday as we get closer and closer to the end of the year. Happy holidays to you, Richard, and Happy New Year. That's it for opening.